Okay, it says here that the meeting is now streaming live on YouTube, so we should be good to go. What was that, Amber? Oh, or Caitlin, I'm sorry, did you say something?
Just that we're live.
Perfect. All right. I'm recording, Dave, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'd like to call to order of the regular monthly meeting of the Hamilton Local School District for January 21.
Present.
Mr. Sewell,
Present.
Mr. Dahmer,
Present.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Sheedy.
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Liberty
under
and
God,
justice for all.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, we are at section 2. I need a motion, adoption of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark, Mrs. Clark, sorry, didn't hear it.
Yes, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Mr. Sheedy.
Yes. Okay, section 3, we have any public participation?
No, we do not.
Okay, number 4 is board reports and comments. Mr. Sewell,
Not a whole lot of, just other than the fact of, thanks again for everybody for finishing off a school year as we finished out the 21 year. And as we move forward into the 22 calendar year, 21-22 school year, I should say. I know we've got some movement going on, and hope everybody adapts to their position soon, and we move forward and have a positive year of education upcoming. I know Adam's got a lot of things out there for us to finalize his portion of the year. I want to throw out a congratulations to Talia Woodson, our shot put and discus participant in the state level, Division I. I believe, what was it? We have a 3rd place and a 10th place.
Correct.
Shot was 10th and the discus was 3rd, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Congratulations to her. I know she's just a junior. Look forward to next season as well for her, and a hopeful return to the state tournament. Congratulations to her coaches. I know Aaron O'Reilly's her throws coach. Congratulations to him, and the head coach Adam Begro on a job well done with her. That's about all I have at this time, President.
okay, thank you, Mr. Sewell.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Clark?
I'll just echo Mr. Sewell's, appreciation for everything that our administrative staff, our classified staff, and our certificated staff did for the whole school year to give our students the best possible learning situations that we could throughout the year. And I think that, we did an amazing job given everything that, was going on. And I'm really proud of the work that we did. And that's all, because of the work that you all did. So thank you for that. I don't really have a report. I just have some things that I would like to share that, our hopes that we would, as we work through the summer and as the administrative team works through the summer, focus on and consider and think about when we're going back to school in August, looking at metrics or any kind of having a plan in place for, things are going really good right now. And we're definitely on the right track for learning to resume, in many ways like it was, pre-pandemic, but with vaccines still not being available to our youngest students. I don't want, another year of constantly trying to figure it out as it's happening. If we can be as proactive as possible in planning for what we would do if this happens, looking at different scenarios of, with the variants and vaccination rates, what kind of metrics do we want to see in our community or in our students before we, allow them to return to normal in different ways. And I know that you all have already begun the process to begin looking at and thinking about things like that, but I just want to, make that comment and let our community know that that's what I don't know if others would echo that, but want to see us doing to be proactive with the school year. Other than that, I don't really have anything else at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dahmer. Is he froze up there?
Administrators and everybody on to last school year. Also just wanted to send the congratulations to our girl thrower for the 3rd and the 10th place at the state level. Also wanted to congratulate the preschool on graduating another class and everybody that worked on that graduation. They did a great job. Other than that, I don't have a student liaison report this month either, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Obert.
Yeah, this year going around to the schools, thanking everybody for their cooperation and their dedication. And the t-shirts, I thought that turned out real good. I'm not going to say too much about Leia Woodsman, other than besides doing everything that she can do on track, she plays a mean trumpet also. Her and her brother, Nadir, we went to different locations playing taps. Last year we wasn't able to do it. This year we went through the meadows. We went through Enchanted Acres. We went through Obet's, through the airport communities, and those 2 young students did a fantastic job. And every student that we've had in the last 10, 11 years that we've been doing this, when it's the first time that they do, also we get donations almost every month from different groups, from different people. And it's a policy that we don't say who it is from. Some people don't want their names thrown out there. And I just want to express our past graduates. 40 of them went together and took care of the senior lunch bill that might have got left. And one person took it upon themselves to put on their Facebook, and they had 39 other people donate, and it was well over $2,000. And that's kind of special that, the people that have been through our school system still participates in that kind of thing. And I just thought that was pretty special. And just wanted to say a special thank you to them. And that's all I have. I don't have a political report other than just saying it sure is nice to have people that believes in public education. So that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on for section 5, treasurer's report.
Sorry, we're just closing down June 30. June 30, we're closing down. So we're just in the process of getting all the accounts closed, and come the first week in July, we'll open back up. So other than that, everything's going good in the treasurer's office.
Okay, thank you. Section 6, I need a motion. I have 15 items.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to have 611, 613, and 614 explained, please.
Sure. So let's go 611. Yep, 611. This is great for the community. I am refinancing some of our bonds because of the low interest rates out there. I'm working with Stiefel. And so we're going to save the community. The district doesn't get a dime of it. But we're going to save the community over $500,000 by refinancing some of the few bonds we have left. We're in fantastic shape with debt. And again, that's its own separate fund and everything, and its own separate tax levy. But we only have $15 million left in debt. And that was from like the 05, the big bond we did for the buildings, which is fantastic compared to other districts who have over 100 million. And again, so this is a refunding of some of the bonds. That'll save the community about $500,000.
Now, how does that go back to the individual community members?
Your tax rates for Hamilton Public Schools will go down on your house, like when property taxes. Yep.
So we'll actually see that savings in our tax.
Yep.
Good. Hey, thank you.
No problem. Thank you. And then 613 I wrote down. What that is the treasurers, ever since I've been treasurer, we have to get bonded, which means, protects us if we do something stupid or silly. And so we was never able to fall under the employee dishonesty and faithful performance insurance that everybody else in the district has. We always had to have a separate bond. Well, the state legislature finally kind of said, okay, we can include treasurers under there too. It's silly for them to have their own bond when it's the same thing. So that's just, they're finally, use common sense, and that's what that is. And then 614 is, okay, this is the Dictronics agreement. This is a new scoreboard that we're wanting for the football field. It is going to be like 484,000 around there, but we're getting a grant for about 34,000. So it's going to come to just under $450,000. And I know Mike Morris is on here, but I'll try to explain as much as possible. But we are looking for sponsors. We'll be able to run commercials. We'll have ads. We're going to have signs on the scoreboard, and then we're looking to hopefully generate about 90,000 to 100,000 a year, which will get this scoreboard paid off in 5 years. Mike's been doing a lot of work, and Mark, you've also been doing a lot of work on going out and meeting with businesses and stuff to get them to sponsor. I think we have 9. I wouldn't say they're not signed yet, of course, because we don't have the scoreboard, but 9 commitments from companies are already going to, want their name on our board. But this board, we can run, ads on it. And Mark, you can talk a little bit about it, but it's full-blown commercials, correct?
Actually, you're doing a great job. And I probably should let Mike Morbitzer speak on this because, he's been kind of the hero of this project. He's been the one really championing it so far, but Adam's done a pretty good job. The one thing I'd like to point out is the protection, and for us, is that the scoreboard is all the parts, everything is part of the agreement is guaranteed for at least 10, if not 12 years. I want to say it's 10 years,
Right.
but everything's guaranteed. So once it's paid off, then obviously it's, you're just kind of on free money there, and everything that we generate on top of that just becomes profit. So excited about that. Probably the biggest attraction to it for me, other than, obviously it's a nice addition to our facility and stuff, but the biggest attraction is we're making this a credential pathway towards graduation. And at this point, I will let Mike jump in. Mike, if you're able to there, if you want to jump in on talk about that, I think that's the real highlight in my mind.
Yes, this really is more than just a scoreboard and a video board. The entire project actually has a couple components of equipment and service. That's the Daktronics video board, and then also the NPI audio video equipment, audio visual equipment. Both of these sets of equipment they were approved by Vince Payne, something we've been working on for a while. This was really in his wheelhouse, and he secured the quotes from all the companies and then approved all the equipment. And then since then, we've met with the companies, and Adam Begro has worked on, with Mike Mead, the infrastructure to make sure that we have the capability to support all the equipment. Further, what this does is when I say it's more than just a scoreboard or audio visual equipment, what it really is a giant partnership with many partners, including OBETS and Fortress OBETS, again, Daktronics, Northeast Productions, the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio, that's our ESC, Ohio Jobs and Family Services, and Apprentice Ohio. We also started working recently with the Ohio Media School of Columbus. That's the Be On Air school that has the commercials on radio and TV around the area. Started working with them, and we're going to meet again to discuss how they can support helping our students with the curriculum and our teacher in teaching how to be on air, how to broadcast. We're going to be working on tuition agreements, those kinds of things. That's our plan with that organization. What this does further is that it creates an opportunity for, like Mark said, a pathway to graduation. Working with the ESC, they are working with us to get approved the Pre-Apprenticeship Pathway, where our students will be working in their on-campus lab in our high school with an approved teacher that we've already started working with. And then their off-campus experience will be at Fortress OBETS, where Fortress OBETS has a great calendar of events, but they don't have the people to run the board. They don't have the sound people. They don't have the video people to sustain all those events. So our students actually will be doing their field experience there in teams and also on our campus working our equipment, and a pathway that gets them to graduation and into careers with audio, visual, and creating media, also marketing and sales. Caitlin Duncan and I, with Tiffany Murgatroyd, the teacher, we had a meeting that it was very interesting. It was a great meeting to see what the interest was with students. We had I think we had 20 students who showed up and asked amazing questions. They were really into it. They were really getting excited about the possibility of working on real equipment so that they could get into a real pathway. The reason that we're looking at this tonight especially is that we are in a queue. We are first in the queue for Daktronics in their area high school installations. The interesting thing is, and the great thing is, they put a lot of faith into this project with us, since they are an official partner, signed partner with us, that I think the other 10 have already paid in some way. This has all been on good faith from Daktronics for the past year and maybe a few months. In that we're at the beginning of the queue now, we need to do some act on it, even though we are in position to sign everybody. And we do have sponsors and partners who are waiting for an official indication, like from the board, that this is a project to go, then they will sign on. We need to stay at the beginning of the queue so we can have the board installed and all the equipment installed by August 20th. That's the first home football game. If we do not act on this and have some clear indication to the company that we are moving forward with the project, then we can't have installation until December. And we would like to have the installation done by the first football game, because again, that's the first opportunity the community can see the board, and also our sponsors can advertise on it. But it's also at the Athletic Hall of Fame night, and we would like to be able to put on there a display of all the inductees.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's any more questions on any of my stuff? I cover, I think, all at least three.
I just would like to make a couple of comments. First,
Sure.
just to follow up on that right there. I know Mike had met a while back with Wally and I and spoke over some of these things on the initial spark up of the whole Daktronics project. And there's a lot of legwork that goes into it. I want to thank him personally. I know he's got people working with him. I think Mr. Varney, the coach, his football coach, is working with him for sponsorships. There's people all across the district that are trying to help out. I know Mark is involved with it. I know Ryan Fitzgerald's doing some things. Wally and I have been out talking to people. It takes a lot to make it happen. Mike, I appreciate the effort you put into it to carry Vince Payne's passion to our district, and I believe it really will work with our kids. I think once that first 20 get in there, I believe that there's going to be about 40 others that wish they got involved in the program. So I think it'll really work well. Thanks for all your efforts there. And I also want to piggyback off of what Wally brought up about the donations earlier. He brought it up. It was in here at 6:15 for the paying off of the lunch program at the high school. Thank you to all of our past students. And I know quite a few of those names on there are good people. I appreciate everything. And that's all I have, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Donner, is he froze? Oh, Mr. Dahmer?
Yes.
All right. Mrs. Clark
Yes.
and Mr. Schutte.
Yes. Section 7, Superintendent's Report.
Yeah, thank you, President Schutte. I want to start obviously just with, and Amber kind of touched on some of this with, our return to school. And, we've got, several weeks obviously before this thing is real concrete, but I'll just tell you at this point, throughout COVID, people were sick and tired of hearing me say it, but the idea of being fluid and flexible is, always going to be there, at least for the foreseeable future. I can see the smirks, but it is what it is. That's going to continue to be the case. But at this time, we are anticipating the return to school being largely a normal school year. The mask mandate at this point is lifted. The emergency state, in the state of Ohio, the state of emergency, I should say, has been lifted. At this point, we are looking at masks being an optional thing and social distancing being something that we're likely not observing to the degree, at least, that we have previously. There aren't plans for a virtual option. That's, just something we're a brick and mortar school and need to get back to that. I've had a lot of conversations, obviously, though a lot of the reporting has stopped at this point. A lot of the things that we're getting from cats and such, we're not currently getting, but our conversations continue. And I've had conversations with obviously everybody in Central Ohio. And then I've reached out to OSBA and, talked with our attorney as well, who's somebody who gets around the state quite a bit. And, at this point, I'm not aware of anybody in anything, school related or otherwise, it's going to be in a mask mandate situation. I think it's just one of those things we're going to have to move forward and do our best, without those kind of things moving forward. Amber touched on the vaccine piece. I'll speak on that as well. The one thing that does seem clear, the governor has spoken on this. He's spoken on it specifically that I've seen in relation to athletics, but I think certainly this applies to the academic side of things, just the school day as well. The idea of being vaccinated makes you immune to quarantine, those kind of things. You're able to, truly kind of return to normalcy from things. The one thing that's not completely certain at this time is what is the quarantining piece going to look like as we get to the school year. So it's been a bit of a frustration. So Franklin County continues to tell us that they're going to do simply what ODH tells them they should, which is understandable. But ODH, depending on, I don't want to try to be too critical of ODH. They're doing the best they can, but the folks who answer the phones there aren't necessarily understanding of all the things that involve schools. So when we've had local community members call ODH, I myself called ODH, said, hey, Franklin County is saying that, quarantine and stuff would still be in place for schools. The people who answer the phones tell us, oh no, that's all been lifted, et cetera. But then I talk back to Franklin County and they're like, no, it's very much in the case. So you have to go pretty high up the food chain at ODH before you get an answer from somebody where it's like, yes, the modified quarantines and those things still exist. So it's a little frustrating because it's been misleading to some of our community members. I've had some people reach out and contact me about this. So we're working through that process right now. But the thing that's unclear at this time is what will the quarantining piece look like as we start the school year. So I'm going to continue to obviously research that and see where we are and try to keep the board as informed as I can. But, that's what we see at this time. But the vaccine piece, guys, I really would, it's tough, not being a medical professional to step out there and say, you need to get your kids vaccinated, those kind of things. I will say this from my chair, speak to your local medical professional, you know, whoever it is that you trust with your medical decisions, have that conversation. And not that I would expect anybody to do what I do with my family, but I would never want anybody in the community to think that I would suggest you should do something for your kids that I wouldn't do for mine. I have had my two children that are old enough, I have had them vaccinated. And actually, this is a nice opportunity to segue into a plug for our vaccination clinic. We do have a free vaccination clinic here at our facility. I'll offer as many of these as entities out there are willing to cooperate with us. I'll do them weekly if they'll let us. We'll do them constantly. But I brought my kids in 2 weeks ago, got them their first round of vaccinations. We will get them their second round of vaccinations this Thursday at our clinic. And the great news about this for anybody out there in the community that's listening, and Caitlin's done a great job, her and Michaela, of advertising this. The vaccination clinic is again this Thursday. It is from 9 to 2 o'clock. I'm almost positive. Check our social media on that. It's out there. I'm almost positive it's 9 to 2. And that's here at Central Office. It's in the bingo hall. If you've not received a first round, you can attend this. Even though this is the second round, you can come. You can get your first round at this clinic, and then they'll work with you to schedule you for your second vaccination. So that's all part of this. So that's kind of my update thus far on where we're at with COVID. I would like to talk just for a moment. The one thing that, you know, everybody mentioned Halea, and I'll get to her in a moment, but Ranger Bridge. Want to thank everybody who was involved in Ranger Bridge. It was a big undertaking for us. We've never done it before, or at least not anything to that extent. I really want to say thank you to our teachers and our bus drivers that stepped up to help us. We certainly couldn't have done it without you guys, so thank you so much. Want to thank Jordan Farvsing, who stepped up to be a secretary for us during that. We appreciate that. I want to thank all the teachers, administrators, everybody who worked to kind of recruit people to the program. I specifically want to thank Matt Thompson and Jeff Enders at the middle school for hosting it. And then the custodians in that building have had some extra work as you know, we've hosted the entire program there at the middle school. So great work to those folks. And last but not least, a shout out to Carol and Mike Morbitzer for, you know, designing the program. So very pleased with that. We completed our first 2 weeks this last Friday, and we will pick that back up the 2 weeks prior to school starting. So I believe that's the last week in July, the first week of August that we get back to that. And in my final comment, as everybody said, or most everybody has said this evening, I want to congratulate Alea. I have a special love for this because in a former life, though I may not look like it these days, that's what I did. That was my whole life. My dad got me into it. He was like our school record holder. I've loved the throwing event since I was practically born. It's what I did through high school and college. I coached it here. Just love it. And for me, on a selfish perspective, to have somebody that I can go out and watch and appreciate do this at a high level, it's so satisfying. I love it. And Wally did a great job on touching on this. You know, other than being an outstanding athlete, Leia is a tremendous student, just a great kid to be around, but she'll be a lead in our school play. I don't want to presuppose that, but she's been the last few times. Just a very, very talented, great example of what we want to see out of our Ranger student athletes. So President Schutte, that concludes my report this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
I was just wondering, do you anticipate, I know we had approved the board policy related to facial coverings, masks, so would you anticipate us considering a change of that or?
Yes.
voting that after
Yeah.
August?
So OSBA actually sent that to us, I think, and we were in the process of negotiating Thursday, Friday. I think we got that like Thursday or Friday. I've had a chance to look at it. I will likely put that out in front of you guys in August. I guess we'll kind of see where this goes. I considered doing it for this evening, but wanted to have a little bit more time with it. And I went through and read very carefully. The policy that we have existing gives me the ability to adjust this thing in between and such, as long as I'm not doing anything less than what is required. So right now for our staff and things like that are working in the buildings, we're not requiring masks, which would at face value be against the policy, but the policy gives me the ability to make those adjustments as long as it's not going against the requirements. Since there are no mask requirements, I've made that for our employees and such at this time. So yes, I would see that being put before you guys at the August board meeting. We'll
So
have to repeal it at some point, yes.
Would we then presuming or us assuming that that would pass, need to amend our handbooks at that time then?
No, we don't really have any reference of the facial piece in the handbook.
Yeah, there's a whole paragraph in
Did
the
that,
section about like.
yes, Amber, then I stand corrected. That was one of those things. Yes, we would have to pull that out of the handbook at that point. Yes. I reviewed all the changes. That wasn't a change. I think maybe that was a neglected change because we hadn't done it yet. So yes, we would go back and readopt that piece. My fault. Yep.
I got-
Have you
I
heard
got
anything
one-
about the availability of testing kits as we had been provided this school year going into next school year to kind of make sure that we have?
There has been some
identify-
communication that those will continue to be available. To what degree, I guess we'll see as it goes. But I don't anticipate a hardship there. And I believe we still have a number of these in our possession anyhow. So we'll just kind of see where that goes to begin the year. But there has been some communication come through that those would still be available.
And as we look at the mask policy, and I haven't seen OSBA draft, but one thing that I'm thinking, as I'm kind of looking ahead from like the classroom perspective too, is like, we don't want to continue if the state guidance allows us to not exclude students for symptoms that are very common from other illnesses, and especially if they're not wearing masks and those other common illnesses are more prevalent and circulating. We don't want students missing massive amounts of school, but can we look at implementing, and like you said, the current policy allows you to adjust as needed, so being proactive and adjusting and maybe requiring them for certain time periods, or when we see an influx of whether it's another flu related illness or we don't know, or being responsive but not being at this point not having to require them at all times as our current policy states and as the current handbook states.
Yes, theoretically possible. And again, I led off with the idea of being fluid and flexible. Who's to say the governor doesn't shut the state back down during flu season? I mean, I doubt that, obviously, but as we've learned through COVID, anything can happen. I think the difficulty at this time is that masks just aren't. There's obviously, and listen, from my perspective, masks would certainly be optional. I would not stand in the way of somebody wearing a mask. Of course, we would allow them to if they chose to. I would not be in a position to say that these things are mandated absent something extreme. Does that make sense? I don't know of any entity in society that is mandating these at this time. The quarantine piece is, as you mentioned, Amber, that is probably my biggest concern. And it's not so much, we can certainly live with, and obviously, the student or the staff member who is a case clearly needs to go home. Those having symptoms, that's a part of normal schooling anyhow. If you're symptomatic, that kind of thing, if you have those symptoms, largely that those are things that you would stay home for anyhow. Those are things that
runny nose and like those.
Those sort of things I would think we start to just have some more common sense around. And like I say, we'll kind of see where some of that goes as we get a little bit closer. But, the more severe symptoms, for me, the biggest thing would be the quarantining of the asymptomatic contact. From my perspective, that's what I really want to see us get away from, especially at the school level. But like I say, we'll see. Those things are still in play currently with modified quarantine. I think there's certainly indication. There's certainly cause to suspect that these things are they're certainly going to be reviewed and considered and thought about during the summer. I don't want to mislead and say, oh, this is all going to change, but we've seen a lot of things change, obviously. So
right, because modified quarantine is based on the essence of two people being properly masked. So there essentially is modified quarantine. There's just exposure, and then we would have
to deal with the consequences of quarantine, which we hope to avoid.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, as case numbers are low, masking, shouldn't be required. But if we have incidents pop up in the buildings and being responsive to those and utilizing those protective factors before having to get to a point where we have students missing 10 days or massive numbers of students missing 10 days or whole classrooms going to virtual, like those are the kind of things that I'm hoping that we can, be proactive about and think about and plan for.
I'm certainly willing to have those conversations, and obviously we've got, I'll be able to keep you guys to the greatest extent possible in the loop here as these discussions take place over the next month. When we get back together August 2nd, these are, conversations we have. I've been thinking, Amber, since you brought up the idea of the proactive piece, just as a general rule of thumb, I always love being proactive as opposed to reactive. In this situation, it's a great goal. I think it's difficult to suggest a lot of if-thens in these cases, because I just don't know if we know where this thing will be at that point. But I'm absolutely willing, to consider those things and have those conversations here in our times to come, for sure. I think that's responsible. Yeah.
One question, just a simple yes or no, because I didn't understand when you were talking about it.
Yeah.
Are we going to offer virtual this coming year or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
The only thing I will say to Wally real quick, just to clarify with that, it's very likely that that's not even going to be a legal option anyhow. So
Okay.
it's kind of a moot point, but anyhow, yes.
Good. Okay.
Okay, section 8. I need a motion. I have 17 items.
So move.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I have one comment, and that's 814. And that's the trip
Yes.
to see the World War II. The students will be going to England, France, and Germany. I think that's fantastic. Two of my kids got to travel to Europe in their senior year, and they still talk about it. But to visit that type of history of their grandparents and great grandparents, I really like seeing that happening.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, Mr. Obert. I have had Jen Avery on here waiting very patiently. I asked her to be on here in case I had any questions.
Oh, good.
Jen, why don't you just take the floor and take a bow, because we all, I don't want to speak for all the board members, but I think I can. We all greatly appreciate the effort. So Jen, can you unmute yourself? And there she is.
Yep. So thank you, Mr. Obert. That means a lot to me. I was never a history person when I was growing up in school. And this company actually helped me get out to the East Coast and get to the Freedom Trail. And it just changed my life. And I've seen the Great Wall of China, and it's different than a textbook. And so I think I'm most excited to get them to the Omaha Beach Memorial.
Yes.
Awesome. Jen, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. If there's any other questions anybody else has, I'm free to answer.
I agree with Mr. Obert. I'm a history buff myself. I'm very interested in it myself. Appreciate the putting it together, and by all means, have a great trip this year. And I think that's up in Belize, correct?
Yes, Belize leaves July 7th,
Okay.
and we come back the 14th. And so Belize is doing amazing with all of their protocols. They're actually down, I believe, to the lowest level for travel advisories. And the EF company has been amazing to work with and has all these policies in hand. They have their own COVID policies that we've been working with them and getting the kids all situated, and they are really excited. And sorry, that's my cat.
Well, I appreciate everything you do for this one upcoming in July, and for next year as well. Enjoy. I hope our kids enjoy. Thanks for providing the opportunity for them.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
have one more of a comment about the handbooks, the student handbooks. One thing that I would love to see our district look at over the next year is our student dress code section. I feel our dress codes are pretty antiquated and not as in line with the times as many other districts have started to become. I know I have teenage children who, buy the clothes at the store and want to wear, different things to school and have to find that balance. But I also hear them have those conversations about how it feels to them to be pulled out of class when they are dress coded and be missing class for that purpose, when just because their shoulders are showing, and how they feel like it's makes them feel like a distraction to others when they're just there to learn. And it's something that, I think has become more of an issue over the years. The kids have started to speak up more about it. So if that's something that I know Superintendent Tyler, you have your advisory committee that you have formed and have done great things to, improve the culture and do different things in our schools. So maybe that's something that you guys could look at. Just throwing that out there as something I've heard from kids that hang out around my house.
So rule one of the student advisory committee is do not complain to me about the dress code. However, however, since you asked so nicely, Mrs. Clark, I think just to give the board a little bit of background, I won't go too deep in the woods with this. Look, dress code's just one of those things, and I share this with parents sometimes. Kids don't like it. I think administrators like it less because it's just obviously something that we have to deal with and things. It's not I will credit our students. They do largely a good job with it. There's never an issue at the elementary. There's, moderate issues at the intermediate school. It becomes a bigger deal, obviously, at middle school and high school. It's, we have, I will say this, if you go back and look at it from, say, maybe 5-6 years ago, we've definitely evolved into maybe a more enlightened approach, certainly. One thing that we do just consistent with all of our handbook stuff. So with the dress code policy, with conduct policies, all those kind of things, we have our administrative team pull area handbooks. We'll just go through and snag them from other districts and look to see, kind of how we stack up. Are we fairly congruent? Are we not? The last time we really did a review around the dress code piece, at least that I was personally involved, was probably a couple, 3 years ago. And I felt like we were fairly reasonable middle of the pack there, but I'll tell you what, we absolutely will continue to take a look at those things. It just kind of embedded anyhow. One of our, and I don't want to make excuses, but listen, COVID has thrown a monkey wrench at a lot of things. So every year, our administrative team, we do a book study. It's something that, I have everybody participate in just as our kind of professional growth and development sort of thing. We decided a couple years back that we want to make that book study more, instead of looking at, some leadership or, instructional type thing. We wanted to take a good hard look at our student handbooks, and we've been in the process of that kind of thing. It got a little bit, again, kind of sidetracked with just, last year and then throughout the most of this year, our sole focus being on just how to have regular school. But this is something that's kind of embedded in what we're wanting to do anyhow. So point taken with that. We'll absolutely take a peek, but, just, I think everybody gets it. Everybody understands whatever we set that standard is, there are kids that will push it. We have students that would wear little or nothing if we allowed that. So, we have to obviously just keep some decorum, but we'll definitely take a look.
Thank you. That's all for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a vote on section 8.
Yes, sir.
Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell, Mr. Sewell,
Yeah.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Shi.
Yes. Section 9, I need a vote. I have 4 items.
So move.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Shooty.
Yes. Section 10, I need a motion. I have 5 items.
So move.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Yes. So section 11, I need a motion. I have 2 items.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Shooty.
Yes. Okay, we do not have any tabled items.
Correct.
And don't see a use for executive session today. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Amber second. Wally first.
We all want to be second.
I know. No. Wally and Amber.
It's a popular one.
Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Yes.
6:47. And Wally,
6:47.
enjoy fishing.
Yes.
Hey,
Thanks, everybody. I'll stay in
Super.
touch.
Keeping this meeting possible. Let me go on vacation.
Enjoy your fishing, Wally.
Yes, enjoy, buddy. You earned it. We'll see you guys.
All right. Bye.